There's this little mystery we see on our screens every single day, the story behind the blank profile picture. It seems like such a small detail, right? But that empty space, it tells a surprisingly deep story about our psychology, our privacy, and who we are online.
I mean, you've definitely seen it, right? You're scrolling through comments, you get a friend request, or you're just looking at who's in a group, and there it is, that gray silhouette, or maybe just an initial. It's so common we almost don't even see it anymore. But have you ever really stopped to think about what's going on there? What makes someone choose to be invisible in a world that's pretty much all about being seen? So yeah, these faceless profiles, they're a huge part of our online experience. They can feel a bit like empty houses on a super busy street. And our first instinct? It's usually to judge, right? Or to make assumptions, or just to scroll right on by. But today, we're gonna pull back the curtain a little and really try to understand the complex reasons behind this very simple choice.
All right, so before we get into the really deep psychology, let's talk about what we think we know. We're going to start by separating some common myths from the much more interesting truths. Because, let's be honest, our first impressions are usually just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, so here's the first big one. The easy assumption is that a blank profile means someone's antisocial, maybe a bit of a loner. But the reality? It can actually be the exact opposite. Think about the crazy pressure online to always be on, to look perfect, to perform. For a lot of people, a blank profile isn't about rejecting people, it's a shield. It's a way to protect their own mental peace. It lets them engage on their own terms without the absolute exhaustion of keeping up a visual identity. It's really an act of self-preservation.
And that kind of leads us to another huge myth, that they must have something to hide, that it's all about secrecy. But let's try to reframe that a little. Instead of thinking hiding, let's think curating. Choosing not to post a photo is actually a really powerful way to draw a line in the sand. It's a boundary between your public life, your private life, and your work life. It's a very conscious choice about how much of yourself you're willing to give to the digital world.
Okay, so if it's not always about being antisocial or super secretive, what's really going on? Now we're going to go a layer deeper, get past those myths, and look at the core psychological drivers behind the choice to stay anonymous.
So what's happening on the inside? Well, it's usually a cocktail of different things. There's the fear of judgment. I mean, who wants to get called out online? There's the constant pressure on our self-esteem from comparing ourselves to everyone else. And for many people, especially women and marginalized groups, there's a very, very real fear of online harassment. And like we said, sometimes it's just a practical tool to keep your work life and your personal life separate, or just a way to cope when you're feeling totally overwhelmed by it all. And it's pretty fascinating to see how these reasons stack up. You can see here that privacy concerns, well, that's the biggest slice of the pie by far. But setting professional boundaries and dealing with social anxiety are also huge factors. It really shows that it's not just one thing, it's this complex mix of practical, emotional, and personal reasons.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly sums up the whole idea. The big promise of the internet was always this freedom of identity. And for some people, the ultimate way to express that freedom is to just opt out of a fixed visual identity. It isn't an absence of a self, but a different way of being present, one that's defined by what you say and do, not by your headshot.
All right, so we've talked about the internal psychology. Now let's switch gears and talk about the external strategy. Because in a world that is so public by default, choosing to be anonymous isn't a passive thing at all. It's an active, strategic choice you make to manage your own privacy.
So a really crucial idea here is something called context collapse. This is a massive reason for online anonymity. Just think about it for a second. On a site like Facebook or Instagram, who's your audience? It's your boss, your grandma, your best friend from college, and that one person you met at a party 5 years ago, all mixed together. How can you possibly be your authentic self for all of those people at the same time? You just can't. A blank profile picture is a really simple, kind of elegant solution to this very modern problem. It stops all those different worlds from colliding.
And this shows that the choice isn't just random, it's a whole thought process. First, you're thinking about the platform, right? Is this LinkedIn where I need to be professional, or is it a gaming forum? Second, you define who you actually want to connect with. And third, you choose your tool. And for a lot of people, anonymity is the best tool they have for enforcing the boundaries they need online. It's pure strategy.
Okay, so we've looked at the myths, we've dug into the psychology, and we've talked strategy. So let's try to bring it all together and ask, what does all this mean for how we think about our digital first impressions?
Ultimately, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. You do not owe the internet your face. Your online identity is something you get to build, something you control. It is a choice, and it is not an obligation. A blank profile picture isn't a failure to participate, it's an assertion of control in a world that is constantly demanding more and more from us. You could even call it a quiet form of digital rebellion.
So, I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Take a look at your own profiles. What does your profile picture, or your lack of one, say about the boundaries you've decided to set, the identity you've chosen to build, and how you navigate this incredibly complex digital world? The answer might be more revealing than you think.